Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. The guy over here to my right is not only wise and amazing, is also named Tim. Tim is from Military Arms. I'm from Langley Outdoors, and this is The Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. Now, what we're going to cover today is something that we cherish. We love bringing in the social aspect to the gun control argument, because I'm not sure if you guys have known, they're pushing a lot from the youth, the grassroots. Gen Z has had enough, and they're speaking out, and that is where we're going to step up, because there's some stuff you guys have got to see. But before we get into any of that, Tim, how you doing, my man? What's up? How's life?
Doing good, man. Just, plugging along. And every day I open up my browser and look at the news. I'm like, here we go again. And today, here we go again, apparently. I haven't seen the video that you're going to show me, so this is going to be one of those reaction type of things.
Oh, I'm so excited.
But I'm familiar with the clowns that made the video.
Oh, I'm so excited. So before we get into this, guys, because that's what we're going to conquer, make sure if you like The Second Legacy and you want to help us in our mission to grow the channel and pass the Second Amendment along, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. We need as many of you as possible to get in here with us to spread this information, because this is where the fight is for our rights, and we would love to have you along for it. And the content today is brought to you by our sponsor, Bullet Safe. We're going to say a quick word, and then we are going to hit it, and I can't wait to hear what you guys think in the comments on this one. Now, the vest you're seeing me wear is from Bullet Safe, and they've sponsored these videos. Bullet Safe is on a mission to be the #1 provider for safety equipment such as this for not only the civilian, but also the security market. Now, the VP3 that I'm wearing comes in at $299.97, which makes it completely affordable and provides up to or better than Kevlar protection. This thing is NIJ level 3 tested. You are talking about up to 44 Magnum stopping on this bad boy. They've made it concealable, discreet, comfortable, and breathable. It's modular and upgradable, and in comparison to previous models, it's 50% thinner and 25% lighter. As you can see, I'm wearing in the filming of this spot, and it is not even adding to any of my dexterity whatsoever. This is something very concealable, and if you're in the market, this might be something just for you, and thank you to Bullet Safe for making this content possible. All right, so again, thank you to Bullet Safe for making this possible, but here's the setup, guys. If you've been on Twitter, if you've been on Instagram, I'm sure you've seen the two newest Gen Zers. I'm just going to call them the dynamic duo. One is definitely Batman, one is definitely Robin. And they're always talking about gun control. And there seems to be a theme from Davey Hogg forward, where if you don't have the points to bolster your argument, just scream louder, make a lot of hand movements, and you'll get your point across. And that is what we're about to hit, because they were just completely annihilated on a actual podcast, and they weren't ready for what we're going to hit. So, as Tim mentioned, we're going to start this off. I'm going to show you his reaction and this clip. Mr. Producer, could you hit number 7? And I am excited.
Really hard in the space, right? Like, we have like 45 seconds to record a video, keep people's attention. And a lot of the people on our side, like, if they start hearing, like, I've actually done it before. I've criticized, like, Democrats, like specifically Hakeem Jeffries, and it all just went south. Like, I started losing followers. Like, it's bad, right? And I really want to be that person that, like, reaches the other side, because Democrats, I mean, they're horrible at their jobs, right? They do a lot of shitty things, although I'll vote for them all the time. But it's also hard in the space to criticize them.
That's a good, can we clip that quote? They're horrible at their jobs and do shitty things.
Please don't clip that. Please, no,
Please go. I'm so excited.
They're horrible people. I can't stand them. They do awful things, but I'll vote for them every time. That's awesome. I mean,
every single time.
That wraps up that group of people so well that believe the way they do. I know there's great Gen Zers out there that don't think like these clowns, but good grief, how can you go out there and say, the Democrats can be horrible people, and I've actually criticized Democrats and I lost followers, so I'm going right back to not criticizing them, and I'll always vote for them, even though they're horrible people, because I love communism. Wow.
See, I told you this would bring joy. I told you offset, this would make you happy.
I wouldn't call it happy. I'm just dumbfounded. I mean, this is the generation that's inheriting everything that previous generations have fought and sacrificed for to build. And these clowns are just ready to throw it all out the window because they just want to belong to a party that's blue with a D on it. I don't get it. This tribalism is ridiculous because, look, I won't even identify with the Republican Party because they make me angry. Right? The two-party system has always rubbed me the wrong way. I voted for Ross Perot way back in the day because I wanted to upset the system. I hate the two-party system. Our founders warned against it. And yet here we are. And then you have clowns like this that are so invested in the two-party system, they don't even care. I've often said either party could dig up Adolf Hitler himself, reanimate him, run him for office, and as long as he had an R or a D in front of his name, he would get 50% of the vote. And it's just because of that tribalistic, but it's true. Look at some of the politicians we have running. Look at the president we have. The guy can't even put a coherent sentence together. Facts. The guy goes around making a complete mockery of the United States, falling downstairs, saying stupid stuff, has a VP that just cackles endlessly, and yet half of the population will vote for him again. They don't even want to go out there and primary this guy and try to get a real candidate. No, they just want to hold on to the reins of power, and they're just going to continue with the potato in office. It's just mind-boggling, and it's all back to this tribalism.
That's exactly right. I'm so glad you went down all the roads that you just went down, because it is not only entertaining, it's also depressing, it's also sad. It shows tribalism. It shows the lack of critical thought on the Gen Z push that they're doing. So let's back this out a little bit, because there's so much in this clip. We can do an entire show just on what they're talking about. Okay, so if we back up a little bit further and look at all the gun control advocates, right? So we mentioned this before filming. If you go back to the 90s, you had Dianne Feinstein. She was groundbreaking. She was the new look. She was the first female senator from California. Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them all in. And then she got a little flack for that and said, well, I didn't mean it all the way. And then I
don't want to take your guns. Nobody's taking your guns. I misspoke when I said Mr. and Mrs. America. If I had the votes, turn them all in.
Misspoke. That's got to be the phrase. Like, I misspoke. No, you didn't. You just told the truth. That's not misspeaking. Yeah. Like, anyway.
That's like Jeffrey Dahmer saying, I like eating people. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
I misspoke. Does misspoke mean you said something you shouldn't have said, or does it mean it wasn't right?
Means. Like, in today's political environment, that's what it means. It means, oops, I shouldn't have said that is what it means.
That's exactly. Hey, of course, it's what I believe, but I shouldn't have said it. So then you move forward, right? Then we get the Gabby Giffords. And it's interesting to see this dynamic as it moves forward. Because like I said, Feinstein, then you get Giffords, and then you're starting to get into Shannon Watts, and you're starting to see a very interesting archetype that is shifting, right? Feinstein, older, distinguished, groundbreaker. Shannon Watts, Gabby Giffords, younger, female, leading in a world of men against the evil NRA. And then you start to see this transition into people like Davey Hogg. And that's where it pivots. And that's why I wanted to hit this so hard, because this is interesting to me. When you get to Davey Hogg, you start to lose the allure and the veneer of experience, right? So what do you make up for in experience? If you're trying to garner attention, what do? You shout louder, you start calling names, you go away from the argument, you go towards volume, right? And that's been one of our criticisms with Davey Hogg ever since he started getting a Twitter account, is he will start shouting and rambling on Twitter. I mean, you and I have both made comments and kind of gone into his Twitter feed and accepted challenges, which oddly were never answered, about debates and things of that nature. But it's fascinating, the next evolution of the DNC, because there is proof that they have paid these two kids for their TikTok exposure to put these points forward. They're devolving. I mean, like, legitimately devolving. If you look at that line, what's the next step? Like, where do they go from here?
I don't think it gets any better, because they progressively get worse. So I guess progressive does apply to them. Well, because they progress in the wrong way.
They're absolutely progressing in the wrong way. But if you break down this clip, the backstory on these two is they've put out TikToks where they're screaming and flailing and saying Republicans should be afraid because gun control, and you should be afraid. And they have no substance to what they're speaking about. They turn out they're paid by the DNC as shills, and then they go on with little experience on shows like this and actually say their quiet parts out loud.
That's like, because they're youth. They don't know what they're doing. And that's what's so ironic about them giving political advice to anybody, especially their own generation, because they don't even know what they're talking about. I mean, who goes on a podcast and says, yeah, the Democrats suck, but I'll vote for them every time? Right. I mean, but that is a child that has no experience, as you were talking about. This person is not savvy. This person doesn't understand the way the world works, certainly doesn't understand the way politics work, doesn't appreciate or understand freedoms and liberty and what goes into supplying those to people, everything that we fought for to get to where we were and currently are. Right. And they just don't care. They don't understand it. I don't even know if it's apathy as much as it is just ignorance.
It is ignorance.
Because they're in a school system that isn't going to teach them anything. They're just going to propagandize them. Clearly, they've been propagandized. Look at what they're doing and saying. That's pure propaganda. When you say, I don't even like that person, but I'll vote for him every time, you've been propagandized.
Absolutely.
You're not even thinking right. And so it's just crazy to me that after saying something like that, they even still have a following. But there's throngs of Gen Zers out there like, yeah, go Democratic Party.
But that's the thing.
And on the other side, you got the same thing going on with the Republican Party.
Yeah, but that's two separate things. And this is kind of, I'm so amped that you took that direction because that's exactly where I was leaning, right? When you look at what they're trying to do, if you look at this from a macro perspective, the DNC is trying to reach a youth audience and motivating through youth, like someone as they are, right? It's like, hey, it's a like individual. I see the same thing, so therefore I think the same thing. And that's on the base level of the marketing. They're trying to do that. But they lack something crucial, the experience. There is a reason over the past history of humanity that youth typically, not all the time, but typically did not hold positions of leadership. They were not thought leaders. They were typically the lower end of the scale, not because they were unintelligent, not because they didn't have value, but because they lacked the experience to make wise decisions and to drive from a position of experience. Now, extrapolating out their tactics here, if they are going after the gun control push for the Gen Zers or any type of Democratic push for the Gen Zers, if this is where the DNC is putting their money, they're negating all of the experienced people and they're only focusing on the bottom rung of that ladder. That's a pretty risky move, particularly if you're banking on that demographic showing up to vote, to push gun control, to push any other type of initiative you want to move forward. You know what I'm saying? Like,
consider
that's a big thing.
Consider this. You know what the Democratic Party's trying to do right now? They're trying to lower the voting age, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you take a look at that, and you take a look at these kids that they're paying, who are speaking to the kids that they're trying to allow to vote. They're paying these kids to be, propagandists themselves, to spread their propaganda for them, to get in the ear of the Gen Zers. We're not going to listen to people like you and I. We're too old. But they'll listen to these two clowns boomers. Because, I'm not a boomer, but I'm a Gen Xer. But my mom was a boomer, is a boomer. She's not gone, thank God. But, it's just, it seems like this is a concerted effort to propagandize the youth, take advantage of their naivety, and then give them the right to vote. Because in our society, we haven't allowed people to enter into contracts. We haven't allowed them to vote. We haven't allowed them to do anything, including enlist in the military, until they're 18. Because you're not considered an adult until you're 18. But the human brain doesn't even fully develop until you're in your mid-20s. And then you can't, you have the whole issue of lack of experience. That would be like me going out there talking about nuclear energy to somebody and trying to convince them I know what I'm talking about when I really have a very high level, like 150,000 foot level understanding of how it all works. Right. I don't belong out there talking about it any more than these kids belong out there talking about gun rights or any right. Right. Because all they know is what they've been told in grade school by a bunch of leftists and crazy socialists that basically want to convince them their rights are not important. You don't need those rights. Trust the government. The government's here to give you everything you need. You don't need a God. You don't need this. You don't need that. You just need a government. You don't need rights. What are rights for? They can be abused. We'll put you in a little room. We'll give you food. We'll give you housing. We'll give you everything you need. We'll give you free school. We'll give you an Obama phone. And you can just live your life. All you have to do is vote for us. Exactly. As long as you vote for us, we'll take care of you. It'll be great. What could go wrong? Nothing's ever happened bad in the history of communism, socialism. It's nothing. Nothing. I mean, it's not like tens of millions of people have died. It doesn't happen that way. We just haven't done it right yet. Exactly. That's a very, man, you're grade A Tim this morning. Anyway. I've had a wonderful day. I mean, yeah. But that's the piece. And that's what's so fascinating, because when you look at the things that they are spewing, I'm going to say spewing. I said it. Because what they're doing is they're just propagating points that they've already been instilled. Basically, it's like you said, there's no critical thought. This has not been boiled down. This has been Orange Man bad, so therefore Orange Man bad. There is no articulation of Supreme Court cases. The Heller decision, the Bruin decision, the McDonald decision. How about any of the other decisions? How about the Chevron decision? Any of these decisions that all factor into your rights and how they work? No, I'm just going to scream loud and flail my hands around. I don't need these rights because, I mean, effectively, while you were describing the full-on nanny state in a room with everything they need, I thought of a hamster. Like, you got your exercise. Running on a wheel.
You got your exercise on the wheel. You got your food and your water delivered right to your room. You got your internet. You got your electronics. You can get anything you want through an app. There is no reason for consequence. You don't need those gun rights. You don't need you know what? Freedom of speech, that's fine. But let's be over there in that little corner, because that little corner is a really good, safe corner. You can be over there 25 minutes a day. Please read 1984. Anyway, the big part about this is they just said the quiet part out loud and kind of wrapping this concept. They just said the Democrats are terrible people. They just said the Democrats suck at their jobs. They said they can't go and make any kind of articulated point against Democrats at all, or they lose followers. What are you at that point? And you're paid by the DNC. I mean, wow. Come on. You put those things together? That's not cute.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a really sad state of affairs. These guys can't be bothered with facts or anything because they don't understand that. And they don't want to accept the facts, because you have people that are fact-based and then you have people that are emotion-based. And much of the arguments that, you know, people like them use are strictly based around emotion. And if you hit them 100%. With facts, they become even more emotional. And then they devolve into yelling and screaming at the sky, like you said. Then if it continues and you continue to hit them with facts, then it turns into personal insults, and then they want to cancel you. They'll label you racist, bigot, misogynist, transphobe, homophobe, whatever phobe they can come up with. They'll just hit you with everything, every ism and phobia that they can think of, just trying to degrade you and get you to shut up, because and it works, right? We see this happen over and over again, where somebody in the public eye will say something that the far left doesn't agree with, like these two guys, and then they immediately turn into the insults and they start labeling them with all the isms and phobias that they can think of, and then they shut up because it works. The canceling works. And so, again, it's all based on emotion, has no basis in fact. They can't be bothered with the facts because guns just feel bad to them. Exactly. Second Amendment just feels bad to them. They don't care that it's there for a purpose. They don't care that the Supreme Court's upheld our individual right to own them. Not important to them. It just feels bad to them because they don't know any better. They're still wet behind the ears.
No, that's exactly right. And this is an important piece, because when you take everything that we just said, everything that we just broke down on what they've done, what the obvious strategy here is, it boils down to these kids are being used. And that's the worst part, because I promise you, and you can mark my words on this channel, on Second Legacy, if these kids get a bad rap and they start to get a reputation for not having good delivery or not being effective at their points, the Democrats won't pay them anymore, and they will no longer be on that platform. That's called using you. And and these are kids, because they don't have the experience to acknowledge and understand that they are being manipulated by forces much powerful than their own, for their own means. And they get the feeling of importance and accomplishment, but they're going to be discarded the second they are no longer useful.
They don't understand that. They think this is going to go on forever, but they are disposable. They're a tool in the toolbox of very powerful men and women that seek to exploit them. And again, I'm not picking on the Democratic Party. I mean, they suck, but so does the Republican Party. They do the exact same thing.
But would you vote for them anyway?
No.
Because they suck.
So I don't have that problem, right? I'd rather write in Mickey Mouse than vote for a bad candidate. But it's, and I'm kidding. I think that's disrespectful. But I would vote for somebody else. I would pick a legitimate candidate and just vote for somebody else. And people say you're throwing away your vote. No, you're not. The problem is we're stuck in this two-party system, and nobody wants to step outside of it for fear that they're going to lose an election. And it's crazy. But yeah, these kids, they're definitely cogs in the wheel. They're definitely disposable. They won't be here in 5 years. I mean, even Davey Hogg is clawing and scraping for relevancy. I mean, every time there's a national tragedy, that's the only time the guy gets any air. When we go through a peaceful period where there isn't a national tragedy, the guy is not relevant. Nobody cares what he thinks. But the minute there's something that happens on the national stage, he jumps in front of the first camera he can find, grabs a microphone, and then he just starts rambling on incoherently and changing, flip-flopping. We've seen him go from, they all need to be banned, you don't have any right to own them, to, hey, look at me, I'm shooting shotguns at Harvard with a bunch of other, trap and skeet shooters, and I'm one of you guys. We just don't need AR-15s. Nobody wants to take your gun. And then another national tragedy happens. It's like, oh, well, look, we got to take them all again.
Got to take them all again. Right.
Yeah, it just flip-flop all over the place based on emotion and what's going on at that moment in time.
No, you could not have said that better. That's exactly right. But the thing that is so... to distill down the point of what we're talking about, this is something bigger. These kids are not suffering the same fate that a Shannon Watts or a Gabby Giffords, going back to the line, the de-evolution of gun control advocacy. Dianne Feinstein, she'll be enshrined forever, even though they want her out right now because she's got shingles and they're getting her in their way, or she's getting in their way, right? Can't put the judges on the bench that they want. But Gabby Giffords, she'll be enshrined. Shannon Watts, she'll be enshrined. Davey Hogg is not going to be enshrined because he's damaging exactly what they're trying to push. He doesn't have the staying power. There's no basis for what he's going other than, I was there on this day, and so therefore I have a Twitter account. Can you articulate any of your points? No. Okay, well, what's your value? What's your value add? And these kids, they don't even have that. I have a TikTok account that's being pushed by the Democratic Party. Congratulations. To your point, in 5 years from now, are you going to look and say, I'm no longer relevant. I was once something, but now I'm not something? That's damaging to people, especially young people. I mean, it is.
Yeah. Well, especially when you have somebody like Davey Hogg out there running around who is flip-flopping, and what he's doing is pretty typical human behavior. He's trying to appeal to all sides. He doesn't like being disliked. So he's trying to appeal to the pro-gun people. He's trying to appeal to the anti-gun people. And where that's going to put him is in a very precarious position where nobody's going to want to associate with him from either side.
Correct.
And he will fall out of favor if he hasn't already with the far, the wacky anti-gunners, because him posting that stuff to social media of him shooting shotguns, like you said, is going to push him out of favor.
Verboten, my man.
Can't do that.
Doing that.
You can't associate with the people you've demonized and hate. That just can't stand. And so we'll see. I mean, he's had his 15 minutes. He's just clamoring and clinging to whatever he can grab a hold of. But these up and comers, they're going to flame out here pretty soon, I suspect. I mean, they're out there talking about the fact that the DNC is or isn't paying them. Like, somebody accused them of being paid DNC shills, and they make a whole video saying, we're not paid by the DNC, we're supported by this management company who's paid by the DNC, and that money funnels to us. But that's not really being paid by the DNC because there's a middleman. Okay, Hunter Biden, that's how this works, huh? I didn't really take the money. That bag of money was handed to my buddy. It just wound up in my back seat. I didn't take the money.
Right. Yeah. And even 18-year-olds can figure that out. I mean, come on.
I mean, it's crazy. And the more gaffes they have like this, the less likely it is that they're going to be relevant in the future. So
completely agree.
Yeah. I mean, but I don't want to give them advice because they may heed it and take it to heart and use it. And the next thing you know, they are being paid by the DNC for the next 5 years to spread their propaganda. So
listen, if they take your advice, if they take your advice and we give them ideas, maybe they would say, you know what? I should debate. I should be more serious. And I'll be like, hey, come here. Let's talk.
Let's start a GoFundMe to come up with more money than the DNC is paying them and see if we can get them to come over to our side.
Ooh,
oh, that's right. Because it has anything to do with guns, GoFundMe won't allow that campaign. So never mind.
Don't bring. We have such a good time, Tim. Oh man, we were having so much fun until that.
Well, it's like Matt from CRS Firearms goes to GoFundMe to help pay his legal defense, which all sorts of people start GoFundMes to pay legal defense, but because he's fighting off a firearms charge, well, all of a sudden, we're not going to allow that campaign.
That's questionable. That is questionable.
Anyway.
But that is something to follow up for another time. You want to take us out, and then we will dive in?
Absolutely. Well, hey, guys, if you haven't seen our call-in show, please check it out. You can check it out here on the Second Legacy. If you'd like to take part in the call-in show, there's a link in the video description below. Follow that link. It'll take you to a Google Doc. You can sign up. We'll contact you. We'll get you on the show. And you can ask a question or just have a conversation with us about what's on your mind regarding the Second Amendment. With that being said, thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you guys soon.